short or knicker is a type of trouser that stops at or above the knee. Okay, to draft a basic short pattern, you're going to be making use of almost the same process of drafting a basic trouser pattern. The only difference is just that the length of a basic trouser or basic pant is quite longer than that of a knicker, just like it implies. So welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be learning how to draft a short pattern. Okay, so for a short pattern we are going to be needing a vertical measurement and horizontal measurements. The vertical measurement includes the short length, that is the knicker length or the pant length, the hip line, the waistline, tie line, and that's all. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do now is to mark my pants length. Okay, of course it's going to be shorter, so I'm making use of 15 inches. Yours can be longer than 15 and it can also be shorter than 15. After marking the 15 inches, I'll connect with a straight line, just like you see me doing. So the next thing you're going to do now is to mark your crotch line. So from the waistline, you go down by your crotch line. Whatever value you measure for your crotch line or you calculate for your crotch line, you're going to mark it down from the waistline like so, and you're going to connect with a straight line. So label that line as your crotch line. I'm still going to label that later. So the next thing you want to do is to create a box using that value that you have. Okay, so I'm going to mark the 9 inches on the waistline and at the same time on the hip line, or sorry, the crotch line, to create like a square or a box. So you go ahead and use whatever value you have to mark that. Now I'll make my lines visible and I will label my lines before we continue. I already labeled my line, and as you can see, I already have my waistline, my crotch, and my pant length or the short length. Okay, so from the crotch line, you can go up by 2 inches, or you just calculate by using your hip circumference divided by 4. Whatever value you have, you're going to divide it by 4 again. So here I already have 9 inches, so I'm going to divide the 9 inches again, and with this I have 2.25. okay, so this is why most of the time some people just go ahead and use 2 inches, because by the time they finish their calculation, the difference they have little or no difference. So that's why some people will just extend their crotch by 2 inches and also go up by 2 inches from the crotch line to get their hip line. Okay, so you go up by 2 inches or 2.25 or whatever measurements you calculate from your crotch line upward to form your hip line. So this value that you use to raise your hip line, you're going to use the same thing for your crotch curve. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and measure my 2.25 from this point, from that 9 inches forward. That is our crotch extension, and this will lead us to our crotch curve. So for the crotch curve, you can measure 1 or 1.5 inches diagonally from this point here. Okay, it's going to be diagonal, not bent or slant or anyhow. So you mark it and you're going to connect from this point back to this line here. All right, so you can do this with your free hand, and at the same time you can make use of your curve rule. So I'm just going to make this line visible. So after the crotch line, now the next thing you want to do is to work on the hip curve and the waist circumference. Okay, so to get the hip curve, you are going to divide the waist circumference by 4, and whatever you get, you are going to add 1 inch, and you're going to add 0.5 for each, but it is optional. So from the center front now, you are going to add whatever measurement you have. You're going to mark it from the center front back to the side line like so, just like you see me doing, and from here you're going to connect to the hip line. Then after which you have connected the waist to the hip, the next thing we want to do is to form the crease line. To get our crease line, we are going to divide whatever we have on the crotch line into 2 equal half. Then we are going to connect from the waistline down to the pant length. So you are going to divide whatever you have on your crotch, just like you see me doing. Then you measure from that line to the side front, so you can have uniform measurements. You're going to mark the same thing on the short length and also on the waistline. After marking like so, you are going to connect straight down with a straight line. After which you have connected the crease line like so, the next thing you want to do is to work on the waist by plotting the waist dart. If you are not going to have a waistband, you can simply mark your waist directly on the waist like so. You measure your bust span divided by 2, or you just maintain this crease line and mark 0.5 on both sides. But if you are going to be having a waistband, you are going to remove your waistband from the waist area. So you go down by 1.5 inch inches or 2 inches depending on the band height that you wanted. Then you are going to connect with a straight line like so. So that is our waistband. Remove the waistband from the trouser or the pants length. All right, so it is after this band now that you are now going to take your waist dart. So to take the waist dart is just the regular way or the normal way of taking our waist dart, 0.5 inch on both sides of the line. Then we are going to go down by 3 inches and we're going to connect the 0.5 on both sides to that 3 inches. After plotting the waist dart, the next thing we want to do now is to take our thigh circumference. But before that, we need to find our thigh line. So for the thigh line, you go down by 3 inches or 4 inches. It is between 3 inches and 4 inches from the crotch line down, but I'm going to maintain 3 inches. So you back the 3 inches like so, then you connect with a straight line. So that point is where we are going to be marking our thigh circumference. It's just like an extension from our crotch down a little bit, just to have an accurate measurement. So after connecting the line, I'll just label the line as our thigh line. So the next thing we want to do now is to take our thigh circumference. We're going to divide your thigh circumference into 2, and whatever you get, we're going to divide into 2 again. Okay, so here I'm working to 22 inches. That's 11 inches, and I'm going to be marking 5.5 inches on both sides of the crease line. Okay, so the same thing you can mark on the short length if you want it to be free, but if you want it to be a little bit fitted, you can subtract 1 inch or 2 inch from the measurement you have on the thigh line. This depends on you, but for this one I'm just going to subtract 1 inch. So I'll be marking 10.5 inch on the pant length instead of 11. Then I'm going to connect the points that I'm touching. After connecting the points, the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark 1 inch folding allowance or hem allowance at the hem of the pants. Okay, so you can go ahead and add 1 inch, 1.5 depending on what you wanted. So, and this allowance you can also add it on your fabric, but for this one I'm just going to be adding it directly on my pattern. And as you can see, I did not add any allowance to any other part of this because we are going to be adding to the back. Okay, so after this now, the next thing I'm going to do is to cut out this front pattern, and we are going to be placing it on a fresh pattern paper to cut out the back pattern. But before cutting, I'm going to indicate on this pattern as the front. Then I'm going to be writing how many pieces we are going to need for this. So we are going to be cutting 2 for the front pattern and also for the back as well. So this is what we have, and for this waist dart we're going to be closing the waist dart before we create another waistband. Okay, you can also make use of this waistband that you have here, but you must have closed the dart before you cut out the waist dart. Okay, so when we are cutting this on our fabric, I'm going to show us how to cut our waist dart. Now for the back pattern, just like I've explained before, you're going to place the front on another piece of paper. You're going to leave allowance at the top and by the side and also at the center front. All right, so the next thing you want to do now is to extend the crotch line. All right, you're going to extend the crotch line because you're going to be creating another crotch curve for the back. Okay, so guys, just like you see me doing, you're going to extend the crotch with a straight line like so. And the next thing you want to do now is to go ahead and measure 2 inches on that line or 2.5 inches. This depends on the size you're working with. All right, so the next thing now we are going to work on the waistline. So from the center front to the dart line, you're going to divide whatever you have there into 2 equal halves, and whatever value you have, you are going to mark on the pattern paper you are using for the back bodies. You're going to mark from the center front backward. All right, just like you see me doing here, not the front bodies. Okay, so and from that line you go up by 1 inch or 1.5 inch or even 2 inches or 3 inches. It depends on how big the person is. Okay, for this one I'm just going to mark 1.5 inches and I'm going to connect back to the side back. All right, but for me to be able to do this, I'll measure whatever I have on the front waistline and I'll impute it on this line. So I have 8.25 here. I'm going to do the same thing here, and I'm going to mark, and make sure that when you are doing this, it aligns with that of the front pattern. All right, so wherever your measurement stop, you're going to mark it like this. Then I'm going to connect with a straight line. Okay, I'm just going to do this roughly, and later I'm going to use my straight line. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is just what you're going to do. All right, and from here you're going to be connecting back to this side, and from here we are going to connect to our crotch extension. But before we do that, now we are going to mark 2 inches from this same point here. All right, just like you see me doing. Just watch what I'm doing. And from this point, you are going to connect to the crotch curve and the crotch extension. You can use your free hand, and at the same time, if you are good with your curve ruler, you can also make use of it. So I'm going to use my pencil first. In case I'm not satisfied with the line, I can always clean it up and draw it again. This is why I make use of pencil and marker simultaneously. So I recommend you do the same thing. Nobody is perfect. You might make mistake. Okay, so you are going to connect the crotch just like so, just like I've done here. So after which I'm sure and I'm done with this line, I'm going to go ahead and use my marker to make it more visible, and we are done with the crotch. The next thing I'm going to do now is to connect the crotch for the back to the trouser length, and after that I'm going to connect the side back to the length as well, just like you see me doing, just to blend in the measurements. So after this now I'm going to trace out the hemline, and we are done. Then I'm going to cut out the back pattern. So to cut out the back pattern, kindly pay attention to what I'm about to do. It's just the same process for the front. You can simply remove the front pattern once you already trace out the back pattern. Now I'm going to separate the front from the back. Then I'm going to indicate on the back pattern as well that I'll be needing 2 pieces of this back pattern as well. All right, so just go ahead and do the same thing on your pattern. The next thing is to divide our waist circumference, you divide whatever you have on the waist into 2 equal half, and that is where you're going to be plotting your waist that. All right, so you can go ahead and divide it to 2 equal half for make use of your bust span measurement. It's still going to be almost the same thing. So unlike the front, we are going to go down by 4 inches. All right, and from these 4 inches you connect to the 0.5 inches on the waistline, just like we create for the front that. So now the next thing now is to draft out our pocket. So for this pocket, it is optional. If you are a freehand person, you can also use your freehand method, but for this one I'm just going to show us how to draft out our pocket bag and our pocket opening. So you decide on where you want your pocket bag to get to, but it is advisable you don't make it too long, but make sure that you measure to know where exactly it's going to get to. So putting my hand on inside my pocket is definitely going to get to my crotch line and even below my crotch line. So I'm going to come down by 2 inches from my crotch line. You can decide to maintain 1.5, but at the same time you don't want it to be too deep or too shallow. All right, in case of whatever you want to put inside, all right, depending on which the content you want to put inside your pocket. Well, I would advise you just maintain 2 inches, and from that 2 inches you go in by 5 or 5.5 or 6 inches. All right, and we're going to trace it back to the waist that. It is advisable you just stop on the waist that area. Okay, so from this 5 inch I'm going to connect to the 2 inch that I marked earlier, and then I'm going to connect it slightly back to the waist that. All right, so this is optional depending on the design of the pocket bag you want to have, but this is more or less like a general measurements. Okay, so after which I've done this, the next thing I want to do now is to create the curve, and to create the curve I'm going to go out by 1 inch. I'm going to be marking 1 inch diagonally like so, just like you see me doing, and I'm going to create a slight curve back to these 2 lines that I have here, and with this our pocket bag is ready. All right, so the next thing now is to create or to plot our pocket opening. So the pocket opening is always between the waistline and the hip line. So from the side front you can go in by 2.5 or 3 inches for the pocket opening if you want to shape it, and from there you go down by ½ inch. All right, and on your hip line you can go down by 1 inch, or you maintain the hip line, and at the same time you can decide on the wideness of the pocket opening. So for this one I'm going to maintain the hip line, and from that point I'll go in by half an inch. All right, so because we are going to be folding in half an inch, I'm going to be sewing half an inch. That's why I'm going in by half an inch and coming down by half an inch from the waistline. So from that 2 points, you're going to connect like so. If you want to have this kind of shape on your pocket opening, if you want it round, it's fine. So by the time I fold in the half an inch, I'm going to have my accurate measurements. But if I should not stop there, if I do not have that half inch, it will, it will not be easier for me, like it will disfigure the shape of the trouser pocket. All right, so just I just hope you understand what I'm trying to explain. Okay, so that is that for the pocket opening. So to do this, you are going to be tracing it out with your tracing wheel on your fabric, or better still on another piece of paper. Then you're going to use it to cut out on your fabric. So all these are what we are going to be doing in our next tutorial, when we are transferring this our pattern to the fabric, cutting and sewing our shorts. So please turn on your notification bell, subscribe if you are not subscribed, so that you don't miss the video. It's going to be dropping very, very soon. Okay, so that'll be all for the pockets. And when we are making this, when we want to sew, you are going to understand better. And then we are going to be fixing a band at the same time. If you are going to be fixing a zip with a zipper fly, we are going to do the same thing. All right, so this part we are going to cut it off. All right, it's just going to be like this by the time you fold it in, and here is where you are going to insert or place your hand. I hope you understand the pattern now. All right, so we are going to stitch the upper part and the side, and it's just going to be like this. Okay, so guys, that'll be all for this tutorial for today. Thank you very much for watching. Please do not forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, share, like, drop your comments, and please do not forget to come back, because we are going to be dropping the part 2 very soon. Till next time, bye bye and take care of yourself.